Thank you all. We just completed a helicopter tour across the western half, from central to the western half of the state, to survey damage and to talk to folks on the ground. A very heartbreaking and difficult day for the state of Tennessee. Tremendous devastation in multiple locations. We toured sites in Dickson County, in Stewart County, in Lake County, Obion County, Weakley County, and there's much damage from one end of this, from the center of our state to the other end. In just a minute, Alex Pelham will, from TEMA, will give you details about numbers and statistics, but I can just tell you that it's been a very difficult day for many of our neighbors here in our state and neighbors in surrounding states. We're reminded that in just a moment, lives are lost, livelihoods are lost, and lives are changed forever. And we saw that across our state today. It was a very difficult day. But I will say as well that there was an immediate response from law enforcement, from first responders across the state, and an immediate response from the communities there as well. People reaching out, we saw it, like Tennesseans do, to come alongside their neighbors. A great deal of hope in the midst of real devastation in our state. There is much work to be done, and it has just begun, the cleaning up and the beginning to rebuild, but clearly there is much to do, but there's much hope for it being done. I want to have Alex Pelham come up. He will talk about the details of what we saw on the ground today, and then we'll answer questions. Also have General Holmes with our National Guard. We have troops ready to be deployed if necessary in places, but Alex, why don't you come up?
Thank you, Governor Lee. Alex Pelham, Chief of Staff, TEMA. Just to expound a little bit on what the governor said, when we went out today, it was very apparent that you could see the damage that had happened. It's very difficult to explain in a few words here at a press conference, but I'm going to try and give you some numbers of what we have confirmed, and we'll move forward. Working with our local partners and our state partners, we're currently doing damage assessments, currently analyzing what's going on in the field. As of right now, as of 1800, we have 4 confirmed fatalities with this weather event. There's also 1 missing currently still in Lake County. We had 10 that were considered injured and transported, and 64 that are considered walking wounded that we have. From a power outage standpoint, we still have roughly 63,000 without power here in the state of Tennessee. With that, like I said, these numbers are going to be ongoing. They're going to be changing as we continue to work with our local partners and our other state partners to get more up-to-date information through damage assessments. Thank you.
I want to add, too, that with those numbers of loss of life, there certainly could have been much more. And one of the things that we noticed today, and I just want to reiterate and remind people, there was a very strong warning effort in many of these communities. The residents of those communities were notified of the danger and notified of the imminence of these storms. And in many of the cases, we know that there were significant evacuations in the communities, and we really know that reduced the loss of life in our state. So I just want to remind people that being prepared and heeding warnings it's very clear today that was a part of why we had the limited amount of loss of life in spite of the significant amount of damage. We had communities that were wiped out in these storms, and the fact that we had as few losses, as tragic as those are, there could have significantly been more. So I want to thank those who were in our first responders who were responsible for providing warnings across our state, and for Tennesseans for heeding those warnings. So we're happy to answer any questions. Again, Alex and General Holmes or myself.
Based on what you saw on the tour today, what areas seem to be the most affected,
You know, there's a lot of damage in multiple areas. Certainly in Lake County, there is significant damage. The loss of life occurred in Lake County, and just across the border in Obion County, that storm hit in one area on the border of Lake and Obion. The town of Dresden in Weakley County, the downtown area of that beautiful town is significantly damaged. Multiple buildings, many historic buildings will be likely destroyed. So the town of Dresden, it's a very heartbreaking scene in the town of Dresden, a beautiful Tennessee town that has seen significant damage. But again, when you look at that town and the amount of damage that occurred, and that, as we know, there are no fatalities in Weakley County as a result of this storm, that is because people were prepared and they did the right thing in that community, and folks went into shelter and they had shelters set up. So it was heartwarming to see that piece in the midst of the heartbreaking scene of the town being so damaged.
What about damaged infrastructure? Do you get any sense of how long the electricity would be an issue, and any other infrastructure issues?
Alex, you want to comment on that? Yeah.
So I don't have an update on the power, as of the electricity as of right now. We did have it was a boil water notice that we have, but there were no significant infrastructure that has been outlined so far in damage assessment processes. So. So there's a warming center that's been opened in Henderson County. There are multiple shelters, as was alluded to throughout or earlier in the comments. In Obion and Gibson and Sumner, there are multiple shelters that have been open. So we will continue to monitor on the state level at the EOC, requests and needs from our local partners and assist. I know the Red Cross is working intimately in these communities to meet these needs and to capture unmet needs.
No, we've just begun that process, but there is significant damage in the multiple millions of dollars across the state. We looked at damaged homes, a large number of damaged homes in Dixon County, in Stewart County, besides the Obion, Weakley, and Lake counties that we talked about. So there are a number of places where damage occurred, and it's significant. So, but we haven't begun the process of assessing how much yet. I will say that I spoke to the president today and talked about the process of pursuing an emergency declaration, and we're in that process right now. Also spoke with governors from other states surrounding that share in the tragedy: Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, Arizona. All of those governors spoke together today. I spoke with all of those governors today to offer shared information so that we can work together because we share borders with those states, and working together is important. So we are working for that declaration so we can get the relief as soon as possible.
I believe this is the 10th federally declared disaster in the past 2 years.
I can't answer that, but you might be right. We've certainly had significant struggles from a federal disaster in the last 2 years, and I believe it may be the 10th if this one is declared. it has been very difficult, and people are weary. Even President Biden today talked about the fact that people are weary from COVID, and then to have disaster on top of that just adds to that concern. And clearly, it's true, and we saw it in the communities. It's very difficult out there. Those folks have been up all night long, so they're physically weary from being all night and all day working, the first responders in particular, and the people in those communities. I will say that over and over again today, I heard people, and these are the most affected people, say, we will get through this. I heard it multiple times today. There was a resort owner that owns a motel and on Reelfoot Lake that had, as she said, put 20 years of her life into this business, and it was gone in 5 minutes. But then she said to me, we will get through this. People are weary, and it was very difficult to see it in the faces of the people across our state. But again, the hope that people had and the way that their communities responded, we saw law enforcement, and we saw fire departments from counties 3 and 4 counties away showing up at these counties that needed their support and their help. And that encourages people to, while they're weary, to move forward. Our hearts go out to the families. It was once again devastating to see families who have lost virtually everything. And we see them out there on the ground today. But we want them to have hope. And because of the response of the communities, Tennesseans step up and respond. They do in remarkable ways. We see it over and over again. But we also have help from TEMA, from the state, from local officials who are helping, from the federal government. Because of, for example, the phone call with the president today and the assurance that the federal government will step in there. There's hope for these families. There's also tremendous hope. The Red Cross, churches are reaching out in those communities. So there's hope to be found, but it's a tough, tough road through the opening days of a tragedy like this. Thank you.